So, 4 out of every 1,000 stop and searches done in the UK are white people, and 38 out of those same 1,000 stop and searches done in the UK are black people. Meaning that if you're a black person in the UK, you are 9.5 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police than your white counterparts. So, today on the I Am Not an Expert podcast, I'll be asking, is stop and search a racist policy? And if it is, why is it still around? But before we get there, let's talk about today's drink. It's the same as last episode. It's the lemon tea. I really, really like it. I got a few messages from a couple of people saying, "What the freaking hell are you doing?" To those haters, I say, go fuck yourself. But anyway, I just want to say again, a quick thank you to everybody that's sort of sharing and liking and commenting on everything that I put out. The people listening to the podcast, I appreciate you guys. The people downloading, because there's actually quite a few downloads from from what I expected. Those people, I love you guys, and no doubt we will hopefully get more. I'm just playing around with my notes. If you notice, I got Detective Pikachu today. Detective Pikachu is going to help me sort of decipher this question that I've sort of been thinking about for the last few days. I was given Detective Pikachu by my son, who says, "Here," before he went to bed. He said, "Here, go to sleep." And went upstairs to his bed because he's got a bunch of these on his bed. He's come downstairs and he said, "I just want you to sleep with this one today." Yeah, that's what I'll be doing. But yeah, he's gonna be helping me decipher the information and kind of share it with you. But why this question, you may ask? So obviously I'm a black man, as you can see. And obviously, I have lived in London. I haven't lived in London all my life. I haven't lived in the UK all my life. I think that's a story for another podcast. But I've lived a lot of my adulthood, or yeah, a lot of my teenage years, pretty much most of my teenage years, all of my 20s, and I'm in my 30s now. So again, I've been in the UK. So this is quite personal to me. So I've had interactions with the police, and all of those interactions were unwarranted. I hadn't done anything wrong. However, I couldn't avoid being sort of falling into the trap of this stop and search policy that they have. So it made sense to me to kind of touch up on this at some point in this podcast, because this touches my heart, and I've actually been personally affected by it. So here we are. So some of you may be asking, obviously, because I don't think everybody is from the UK that listens. I think there are individuals from outside of the UK. So you may be thinking, what is this stop and search thing that he's talking about? So stop and search is basically the ability for police, the powers that were given to police to stop and search individuals without really. So there was two parts to it. The first part is sort of nationwide, and the police basically have the power to stop and search anybody that they think may have committed a crime. So this is intelligence based. So they may have information on a particular individual or somebody that fits a certain description of an individual. Only then can they stop and search somebody that fits that description of that person, and the other is I think it's the section 6 or 60. I can't remember. I'll have to double check that. And that is a little bit more, it's a little bit more powerful. What it does, what that says is the police, let's say, for instance, in a particular town, not city, in a particular town, that may be a high crime town. It basically gives the police the powers to stop and search anybody within that locality, whether it be intelligence based or not. I think some of you, because this is just from my layman's readings, there might be some individuals that are a bit more expert at this subject that can maybe give me some more info. If you can, then obviously hit me up, message me up, and let me know. But as far as I'm aware at the moment, they can stop and search individuals without the need for intelligence. So it doesn't. I don't have. They don't have to have a description of me, and I don't have to be fitting a particular description. All they have to do is suspect that I may either have committed a crime or may commit a crime. And then they have the powers to obviously stop and search me, and if they find anything, obviously then arrest me. If they don't find anything, they wave me on and say, go about your business. So that's sort of where we go with the stop and search thing. So it wouldn't be fair to kind of just talk about it without looking at a little bit of the numbers. So I've been working a little bit and looking at the numbers. I've looked at it before, but I just wanted to recap a lot of the numbers. So if we look at it here, some small facts that I've kind of picked up. So there were 7 stop and searches for every 1,000 people in the UK, and this is the year 2018 to 2019. So all of these stats are going to be based on the year 2018 to 2019. These are the most recent, the most recent stats and figures that I could find on the government website. So I assume they haven't updated it for the 2020 to 2021 figures yet. So we're working on the 2018 to 2019 figures. So there were 4 stop and searches for every 1,000 white people, obviously. For 4 for every 1,000 stop and searches were white people. Just got myself tongue tied there. And 38 for every 1,000 were black people. So again, like I said in the intro, 9.5 times more likely. We might as well say 10 times because there's like half a person. So 10 times more likely to be stopped, which is for me quite a significant number. Almost half of those, of all stop and searches took place in London. Yeah, that's to be expected if you look at the way it's breaking down between ethnicities. And 22 stop and searches for every 1,000 people in London. That's pretty much the highest in the whole country. Yeah, that's what you get. So in terms of so I figure let me have a look at the population stats, because again I have spoke about this briefly on my Instagram I think it was last year, and looking at the population stats, 3.3% of the British population is black, and 86% is white, which doesn't say much for the police here, simply because if you're talking about just the disparity between the populations here, like you're talking, it doesn't make sense to me how you can stop 10 times as many, considering the populations this different. So 86% are white and just 3.3% being black. So this is part of the problem with the stop and search. Because I think as it isn't a terrible policy, but it's the way it's applied by the individuals. I will get to that. I'll get to that further on. Let's just talk about this. I have had my own personal experiences with the police, and I've been stopped, I've been searched, and while I have to say, quite respectfully, it's always been a sort of I want to say a positive experience, but it's as positive as it can be, considering I'm being stopped and searched, and it's not based on anything. I haven't done anything, really. I haven't done any. I haven't got, and I'm not carrying any drugs, no weapons, and I'm not looking to commit a crime. I just happen to be a black person walking through a particular high street or a particular street or in a particular town that they deem to be a high crime rate area, and they've obviously started doing the stop and search things in there. I was in the wrong place or the right place at the wrong time, depending on how you want to look at it. My the funniest experience I ever had with the police was when I was driving actually, and this is always interesting because I think most of my I was driving this time, and the police do these random, stops, and they check everything with the car and everything else. So they stopped me. I was on my way to the gym actually because that's what I do. So I was on my way to the gym, and the police pull me over and they say, "Okay, we're doing random checks." And they check my car and everything is legit. Like, it's my car. This was done some years back when I was driving. Like, it was a Clio. I loved that car. Anyway, they pull me over. They check over for insurance and all that kind of stuff. Everything's legit, and then they wave me off. I've gone to the gym. And I think I spent like an hour and a bit. This is before I was spending a lot of time in the gym. So I think I spent like an hour and a bit in the gym. And then on my way back out of the gym now, I bump into another one of these. It's the same journey, right? But just the opposite direction. I bump into another one of these random stops and checks or whatever they're called. And once again, they pull me over. And the first time I said, okay, you know what, it's fine. This happens. And I had a sort of a suspicion that it wasn't just random and this was targeted. But I didn't have anything that I could back it up with. So I figured, okay, let me just leave it there. On my way back now, I get stopped again. And they do these random checks again. And I had to stop. I had to ask the police officer. I was like, "Here's the situation, officer." I was like, "About an hour and a half ago, on my way to the gym, you had another one of these checkpoints a little while, just on this same journey. You had another one of these checkpoints. They pulled me over. They checked everything, and they said, 'Thank you. Everything's legit. Move on.' On my way back home, the same thing happens, and I said, this doesn't feel very random to me. Obviously, I can't say exactly, but because it doesn't feel very random to me. And the police officer, I remember distinctly what he said. He said, 'I promise you, mate, I'm not lying to you. This is random. You were just selected randomly.' And again, because I can't. There's no proof of anything here. You walk away feeling like, that felt targeted to me, but you can't really put a finger on it. You can't go and say to somebody or complain to the police and say, based on a feeling. You need some evidence. But which I didn't have. The only evidence was I got stopped twice. And that's not really it. And I had another experience with the police. This was a little bit later in life, I think a few years later. I had another experience with the police where I was driving, not walking, sorry. I was driving down a road, and it's a road that splits into four. It's a 4-lane road. It's split into two that go two separate ways. And they had another one of these random checkpoints. And again, the feeling is these are always super random, and again, I believe that they try and do good. So I don't have a negative sort of view of police. I just think some of their policing tactics really could be refined. Refined is a good word. So anyway, this road splits in two. There's there's 4 lanes here. I'm in the 4th lane. The police are all the way over here in the left lane, and it's a busy road. There's cars everywhere. I'm driving at a very slow pace because there's cars in front of me, cars to my left, and I'm in the 4th lane. So there's no cars to my right. So I'm driving down, and as I'm driving down, there was a little bit of an opening between cars that I could see. There was the police in a corner. Oh, not in a corner, on the side of the road. And I saw him, and as I saw him, just as he saw me, I saw him. We literally crossed eyes at the same time, it was like a movie, right? Crossed eyes at the same time. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and then he immediately, like, before, it was like in a split second, saw me, said, "You." come here. And he ran into the road in front of cars. Keep that in mind. There was cars in the 3 lanes. I saw him through a crack between the cars. There was cars everywhere. And he goes, "You come here." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because you got to do this for the police. They say, "Do." You say, "Okay." That's just how it is. So there's me pulling over. I have to maneuver around really slowly, making sure that these guys don't crash into me because, again, there's cars all the way to my left, going all the way down. And he wasn't going to deal with me. Another 2 officers were going to deal with me because they just wanted to find out things about me. It's weird. Anyway, I pull over. They didn't even check my insurance, actually. They checked who I was, though. That's all they wanted. They didn't want nothing else. But I guess they might have checked the insurance. I don't know what they did. Anyway, so I say to them, you guys really have to stop this. Because I was like, okay, so I believe you are a force for good. I even said to this lady, I was like, I believe the police is a force for good. However, tactics such as this, where you just pull me over, and your guy that stopped me, your colleague that stopped me, he hadn't seen much of me. He just saw me quickly and said, "Come here." And I was like, yeah, I believe you do good, but things like this aren't really going to help, especially your relationship with young black men or even just the black community as a whole, because that's not a healthy relationship. Anyway, I think the superior comes over and he starts speaking to me. He goes, "We're really sorry. I think there was a malfunction with something and it picked you up." And he gave me the spiel. And I was like, you know what? Again, I can't prove this. So I just have to go, "Okay, sir," and move on. They said, "Okay, yeah, everything seems fine." I don't know. They stopped me saying, "Oh, it showed that you didn't have insurance." And then they didn't check me for insurance. They didn't ask me about my insurers. They just said, "What's your name?" Again, I don't really know what information they get when they got your name, but whatever. And then they said, "Okay, move on." And I was like, "Okay, thank you very much." And I was on my way to the gym at the time, so I went to the gym. But the point of the story, I know I went on a bit more there, but the point of the story is there is already a relatively negative relationship between the police and the black community, who seem to be targeted a lot by the stop and search policy. And I don't believe this is the way to make that relationship better. I don't believe it's the way to make that relationship better. It really isn't. If anything, it's the perfect way to worsen that relationship. But at the same time, while I believe stop and search is a terrible thing, I also believe that there is something that needs to be put in place. Because if you're talking about knife crime in the UK, it's high. And the people that are mainly suffering from knife crime are, black men, young black men at that. And the people that are committing the crimes, so the stabbings and all that, are predominantly young black men. And we can't hide away from that fact. There are many issues around all of this, many reasons why I think this is the situation. But at the moment, we're strictly talking about the stop and search thing. So while I don't believe stop and search being able to just racially profile, because this is what it is. We say stop and search, but really we mean racially profile. And the reason why they rebranded it to stop and search is because racially profile is such a terrible thing. I think even non-black people, like people outside of the black community, will look at racial profiling and say, "Phew, I might not be the main victim of it. However, it's an uncomfortable thing to consider." So they obviously had to rebrand it and make it into this sort of, stop and search, police powers kind of thing. But anyway, let me just really quickly say what I think about it. My take on stop and search as a policy. It is racist. Okay, I'll rephrase that. I don't think stop and search as a policy is racist, but I think we live in a society that has I don't want to say it's perpetuated it, because that sounds like everybody's kind of in cahoots and we all believe this. But the message that has been put across for the last, I don't know how many years, since before I was born, was that blackness, especially black men, was is sort of is criminality in itself. So I grew up watching documentaries of prison documentaries, and a lot of the ones in the US that I used to watch were mainly black men in prison. All these crime shows that I used to watch were black people. So again, a lot of things that you see within sort of movies and TV and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of pushing forward this message that says blackness is criminality, blackness is criminality. So I'm not surprised when people within society who have been fed this message of blackness is criminality then look at blackness like it is criminality. So then they react in a way that is blackness is criminality. And while we may try and make it out like the police are separate from society, sort of they're above it in a sense, for everything that affects individuals within society doesn't affect people within positions of power, which is a bloody mistake. I think that's a conversation for another podcast episode. We have to remember that these individuals, before they put their uniforms on, are a part of the same society that everybody else is in. So they are subject to the same influences from media, news, TV, all this kind of stuff that literally every single person that is within society suffers, sort of gets hit with, and has been hit with for the last, since they were born, basically. And they take those same thinkings into their policing. Now, am I saying police are racist? No. I'm saying a lot of the conditioning that they have around what they view as criminals and such is the same as what everybody else within society is. So a really good example. If one really wants to picture a CEO of a Fortune 500 Fortune 500 company, something like that, one of those CEOs from like execs in big tech companies, for instance, the typical image that you get immediately isn't going to be of me, for instance. What you're going to see is relatively middle-aged, if you're talking sort of CEOs and execs, middle-aged white man, right? That's sort of the image you're going to get. And that same effect happens when you think, what do you see when you think of a knife wielding stabbing, someone stabbing somebody, and or gangs or something like that? Immediately all you see is a young black man. So I'm not surprised that the police target young black men. Not only do the numbers sort of, if you're talking about who is carrying knives or is stabbing people, again, there's predominantly young black men, but then that is not all criminality. Like if you're talking about all crimes that happen in the UK aren't just knife crimes. There are other crimes here, but we seem to look at this one and say, okay, we are going to racially profile in this particular crime. However, for things like burglaries and all the other stuff, pedophilia or whatever, which are predominantly done by white men, we don't racially profile in that end, which is very interesting to me. But again, I think that's a conversation for another podcast. But I've gone on a bit of a tangent, and I've gone off my set track here. As a conclusion, stop and search as a policy on its own isn't racist, but the application of it is. Yeah. I'll leave it there. Stop and search is not a racist policy. However, the application of the stop and search policy is racist. The people that are applying it, while they are not racist, may be working in a prejudicial way. That's the one. There are certain prejudgments that we have about certain crimes that happen in society, and I think they are then taken into policing, and then that then targets young black men more than anybody else when it comes to stop and search. And that's wrong, and we need to do something about it. Stop and search is not a racist policy. The application is. That's the take home. I'm going to leave it there because I think I've been going on for a little bit. Thank you for watching and listening this far in. Again, I'm eternally grateful to anybody that's sort of paying attention and listening to what I talk about. I hope it's very interesting. If there are any suggestions as to how I can improve this setup, you can see it's a little bit different today. The angle's different. I'm playing around with things. Hopefully it gets better. I want to set up something in the background here where, it can look prettier. But we're only 3 episodes in, and just come along with me for the ride, and hopefully we can get a better setup. But anyway, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you are watching, I appreciate it to no end. But yeah, have a good one, guys. Peace.